What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Business and Biceps. And you better wake your ass up. On today's show, Johnny Fosco didn't make it to Ohio, so I've got to fill in. His name is Patrick Schwarzenegger. We're going to catch up with him today. He's been on a couple episodes in the past, but each year at the Arnold, which we said last time, we'd catch up and see how he's doing. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I miss Johnny Boy.
I know, right? Hey, he always brings craziness out the side, too. So
he does.
So, yeah, we miss having John. Man, it's been wild since Johnny moved to South Carolina. When we try to get together and do things like this, it's just with the schedule, I was like, I'll jump on, get some good vibes, get Patrick on here. And he's like, I know I'm going to miss it, but go ahead, G. Go ahead and do it. But make sure you push on him to make sure he's doing good. I will.
Well, we got next year, and the next year, and the next
absolutely.
year.
So first off, we're going to talk about the quick little elephant in the room / virus in the room.
Right.
It's like your dad's dealing with this thing at the Arnold Classic. So just talk about that for a couple minutes on kind of what that experience has been like.
Yeah,
Shitty,
I mean, this is just like you kind of said to me on text and on Twitter. I think you said you've been coming since 99, right?
Bro.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't remember a year in my life that I haven't been coming, right?
Your whole life.
And it's my whole life.
Yeah.
It's one of the weekends I look most forward towards.
Sure.
This is literally where I got my learned everything about business was coming to this.
That's right, because you did the T-shirts
yeah,
here,
I
right?
ran my dad's memorabilia booth for charity, and that's exactly where I learned everything from wholesale to retail. How do you what's the markups? How do you do printing?
So
what does it cost to print? And getting the stuff in from China and everything like that. So it was it's always been like one of my favorite weekends, and seeing people like you, catching up with people that I see every year here. So I mean, there's definitely the elephant in the room. It's definitely a weird year this year.
Feels odd without the expo, doesn't it?
Well, it's very odd. I mean, it's extremely odd. You have 200,000 people less this year than
250 is what they said.
Than last year.
50 less million, I heard too.
55 less. Well, we'll see how much
city.
revenue there is and stuff, because people still ended up. I was talking to the hotel and they were like, people still ended up just coming in.
Yeah.
And now some people are going to the actual competition.
Sure.
The strongman always brings out a great vibe, and people still wanted to kind of see that. And of course, it's weird for me, for my dad, for our family, but it's also really weird. You have to think of it from the retail side for a lot of these businesses. And, this is where they get a lot of exposure to a lot of different potential fans, potential customers, potential retail exposure. So it's, more than anything, I think my dad's upset about that and just kind of sad overall about that. He's not in it for the money, like he always said. And he said the other day in the press conference, it's to him the matter of, making money or making millions or whatever is way less important than the overall idea of health. And especially since this is a health and fitness expo competition, that it wouldn't make sense to try to force something, especially if the governor and the political side is saying, no, you can't. Mm-hmm. Not worth it to really try to push that just to make, the money and stuff. But it's definitely weird. We'll see tonight. I think tonight's going to be a great experience. Like I said, they sold the competition out months and months in advance, which was the first time. I think we have a great lineup tonight. And, I think you always have to look at the positive side. We still get to come to Columbus. We still get to, showcase bodybuilding, give them their biggest prizes that they deserve all year.
I'm glad those guys still got to compete.
Yeah, exactly. And that would have been a massive impact and detrimental, because the bodybuilding world has exploded and changed since my dad was a bodybuilder. Absolutely. But they're still not making the millions and millions in cash prizes that these other sport players are, and the Arnold is one of their largest purse prizes. So this is a massive event for all of those guys that spend months and months months of training and dieting.
Sometimes the only show they do.
Yeah.
So could you imagine doing that? And then I knew your dad was going to step up. There's no way he was going to not pay the prize money or go through with that. But that could have been a real possibility.
Yeah. No, it could have been for sure. And I think my dad's, when we had our meeting yesterday, it's all about like, how do we keep the integrity of the Arnold Classic and the Expo and everything? And how do we make sure that these, competitors that have spent blood, sweat, tears every day for the last months and stuff are still getting their support from the fans, their recognition that they deserve, their cash prizes that they deserve. Same with the strongmen. And, now it's the question of how do we make sure that these small businesses get it back and find ways to help them in the future. And we'll see. It's definitely a learning experience. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, man, professionally, you've had an awesome year. I mean,
been a
look,
great
I'm
year.
a bystander. I'm watching on IG. I hit you with a text every now and again. But first off, I'm a little jealous. Calvin Klein, Polo. You know, I'm like, man, this guy is really getting it right now. Talk about being able to work with iconic brands like that, Patrick.
Yeah.
Like, look, everyone who's had muscles or try to be has wanted to work with these brands.
Right.
So for you, that has to be surreal and amazing.
It has been. The Calvin Klein, campaign was something that was on my dream list.
Love that.
It was the jean campaign,
Yeah.
the denim, which is a
Making
start
out with
one.
your girlfriend on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
No big deal.
I know, you get paid to make out with a beautiful girl. It was well worth it. But to work with someone like that, it's an amazing brand. It's a great accolade for myself. But hopefully one day we'll do the underwear campaign. I'll come train with you for a few months.
Yes, that would be amazing.
And you can get me all ripped up. But
Yeah.
that campaign almost didn't happen. It was so close to falling apart. I was in Poland filming. I was in Dubai, and I had to go from Dubai all the way back to LA, then to Poland. Imagine that flight.
Is that where you shot it at in Poland?
Because we shot. I was filming a movie in
Gotcha.
Poland. Then when we were in Poland, I was filming there for a week, and the Calvin Klein campaign was getting switched dates, and I still was filming in Poland, and they needed me the next morning over in New York.
Wow.
And thank God for the people in Poland that they ended up doing extended shoots. We shot me throughout the night. I didn't sleep. I went right to the plane, went right to set in New York, and filmed that. So I went from Dubai to LA to Poland to New York, back to LA, all within a few days. And
you had no clue what time zone you was on, bro.
No clue, but again, it was one of those things where it was like I wasn't even focused on the lack of sleep or not.
No,
it was just like,
you ain't got time to be tired on that.
Yeah, it was like the end goal of just getting this thing done, and I mean, it was awesome. But that was one of the many highlights of this year. The businesses have been going great. The acting and the kind of the film world has been great. I filmed 3 new projects this last year. I just wrapped on Amy Poehler's Netflix movie, which was an amazing experience. So everything has been going great.
Yeah, talk to me about the angel investing. I know that's something you love.
There's
what
a
I couple of companies doing really well right now.
Yeah,
You mentioned
man.
the Super Coffee brand's doing great,
Yeah,
right?
Super Coffee. Shout out to those guys. We were talked about them last year on the on the podcast, and
yeah, give me an update on that.
what a unusual experience it is with them having 3 brothers run the company, and just probably the most competitive 3 guys that I know, which
That's
I
cool.
love. But I mean, they're exploding. I mean, they went up like over 600% this year. They're just in so many doors, and
That's cool.
they just launched a product with Keurig and doing Super Coffee pods now. And they're launching their vegan line for us West Coast kids.
Yeah.
But they're exploding. I mean, they're doing massive numbers, and I'm really proud of them. But that kind of goes back to some of your audience that's listening that might have that idea to start that business, that might have that idea to to drop out of school to pursue that passion, or go to school to develop that passion. These guys, they started out of their dorm room at school.
Love it.
They were on Shark Tank. They didn't get any money, and that's when I hit them up and I said, I'm going to give you guys some money. I believe in your mission and
So
what you
good.
guys are promoting. And it wasn't even so much with the product. It was just these 3 guys were just workhorses.
So you saw them on TV and was like, how do these guys not get a deal? Is that basically what you thought to yourself, Pat?
I knew that I understood why they didn't get a deal.
Okay.
However, I didn't believe that wasn't my opinion.
Oh, gotcha.
I didn't agree with the judges at the time, the different people on Shark Tank. And one of the guys that was extremely interested, Rohan Oza, who's kind of the branding guy behind. He's done Vitamin Water, Coke,
Sure.
a bunch of stuff. He was already involved in Bulletproof, so I knew he had a skewed
okay.
opinion on it, and he wasn't going to invest even from before the episode started. But so the things that he was pointing out, I saw the other side of the argument, just knowing that I knew that these guys could go and compete against Bulletproof and be half the price, and lower caloric information, no sugar, etc. And I just hit them up on Instagram, and I actually
So
just
cool.
did their podcast with them last week. And they were like, man, that was the weirdest experience, that we're watching the Shark Tank air, and all of a sudden I got a DM from you just saying, let's go meet. I want to make a business deal. And I was
So
like,
good.
yeah, man, that was it. And when I went to New York and I was working with them, when I decided to fully invest and go on their advisory board and help them, was when I was getting these texts from them at 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, giving me updates on the business and everything. And I said, okay,
The vibe was right.
These guys are hustling. The fact that they're messaging me every single day at 4:30 in the
So
morning and
good.
just grinding, I was like, I'm betting on them.
Well, at the end of the day, it's like you were buying into the people.
Yeah.
You
I told
knew
him
that-
that, the
yeah.
jockey, man, and I think one of the books that I just read was Ray Dalio's Principles, and he
Yep.
always says that. He says, like, what makes a great CEO, and something that he struggled with for so long, was not being the CEO that said that they were responsible for the results, but how do you kind of create the environment? How do you get the employees and teach those employees
Yeah.
that are in turn responsible for the results?
So good.
And that's kind of what a main CEO, what a really great leader does. And it was great to see these guys kind of transform into that.
That's cool. And I know that there's been some other deals that you did with some other celebrities in Hollywood. It was like, what, Kevin Hart or Russ Westbrook's
Yeah, Russ
involved.
Westbrook. Yeah, we got a new gym that we opened. We have 3 of them now.
Is that the Health House?
Yeah, Health House.
Yeah.
That one's going great. We're going to open the 4th one this year. Rumble Boxing, the other gym, opened up, what was that, 9 this year, so they've expanded.
Wow.
Everything is, of course, the business kind of space right now is, as of the last 2 weeks, has been a little iffy. A few weeks with the coronavirus.
I've been buying stock, bro.
And you have?
It's on sale.
I haven't. I'm still playing on the sidelines because I don't think that anyone really knows what's going on.
No.
And for me, that creates worry with the market, where there's just this crazy volatility, and people are trying to play the game of buying in the low, selling the next day high, and some people are going to win with that. But I'm not going to try to beat the system. I'm going to wait a little bit longer, and then I'm always long. I never really, play around with the stocks. And
I don't like do a day trade thing. I see Warren Buffett just bought another 100 million shares of Delta. He knows it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, the
You know what I mean?
airlines,
I see
the
stuff like
cruise
that.
ships, all those people have gotten hammered. And we'll see what happens. But, if we're talking, you're buying some to give to your kids one day, they're in good hands.
Exactly. Yeah, because I look at it like this. It's like they're not – those companies weren't bad companies. That's not why the stock's down.
No.
It's because of the situation.
Yeah.
So if it's a long game, like you said, then which is what Warren always talks about.
Right.
I was reading up how it said off of American Express alone, the dividend's $250 million a year.
Right.
Just from the amount, because he's owned it for so long, and it's some unbelievable numbers.
Crazy.
So it's pretty crazy. What is it? Mostly health and products. That's what you're in from an angel standpoint. Is there anything that's outside of that?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, I'm in the kind of health and wellness, food and bev, consumer product goods space, and I like to do that space because that's where I have the most influence and the most effect, the best way to help these young entrepreneurs and these young companies to really grow.
Yep.
And that's what I want to do. I'm not really a passive investor. I'm not someone that says, hey, here's a check, talk to me in 5 years when it's 5, 10, 25, 50x.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the same time, I'm 26.
Yep.
There's nothing I love more than learning. And when I get to go in on these early stage companies, of course, that I can provide the capital, I can provide connections, I can provide expertise that I've learned throughout all of my other 16, 17 companies. But at the same time, I'm learning so much as the market's changing, as customers are changing, and that's what I love. And that's really why I like to get involved with earlier stage companies.
Sure.
Because they're still learning, and I can actually have that influence to them and help them. But as they continue to grow, I mean, I never thought with like a super coffee company that I'd be involved with a company that's becoming a $150, $200 million company in the matter of years.
Yeah.
And it's been such a great learning experience. And also the different respect that you kind of get from other people in the field.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. But yeah, kind of that health and wellness space for the most part.
One thing you said that your dad told me when I was working with him, he said, look, you're going to get obviously all the people from fitness that know me and all these things, right? He's being humble on that. I'm like, yeah, everyone knows you. But he's like, the Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, when I work with people, which is what you just said, the Rolodex is yours too. If it's in,
that's the most valuable thing.
Man, what? It's huge.
Yeah,
and people don't even get that.
No, it's massive. And that's what I had told these kind of products when they're saying, okay, can you list out some of the, the benefits that we'll get, besides capital? And I'm like, yeah, boom. Like we have 350 Blaze stores. You want to test your product and see how it goes with different, our stores. Or you want to see if the coffee
Is
works.
It 350 now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's growing crazy. But that's that, or our supermarkets, or our, our gyms. All those places are, forget the sales part. Yeah. It's the best way to get customers' opinions.
Acquisition,
it's the best.
dude.
Yeah, it's the customer acquisition. It's the marketing. It's the the A/B testing of seeing which customers like what or why they don't like. How's the pricing? Everything like that. And that's one of the biggest things that companies can ask for. Mm-hmm. And then in turn, it's also I've had great connections with tons of celebrities, obviously in LA, and ones that I'm friends with or that I have connections with through other businesses. So I never push investments on people. I always just introduce them, then they take it. And I always tell that to the entrepreneurs and the CEOs as well, is I'll put you in a room with someone, but you got to make it happen. You got to make it happen. You got to close, and I'm happy to work with you beforehand. But I'd never like to push anybody or pressure them to do any sort of investment, because that's
Well, and everybody's taste for that's different.
Everyone's taste, but it's also like, if things go great, people are happy with you.
If it doesn't,
they're happy, but if they're not, oh man, they fucking hate you.
Well, so I think that's part of the testing process. Like, even when I first, met with your dad about business, like, he's testing you to see if you peed on your leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the same. If you're working with guys that you think can go to 100 million, well, they got to be able to handle themselves.
Right.
And so if you put them in a room with Kevin Hart, they better be able to handle it.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the process too, man. It honestly is. What are you the most excited about right now?
Oh man, I'm continuing to kind of grow my company, Achilles Advisors.
Okay.
Find new companies to go on and consult and advise for, both in the side of the investment play, but now we're growing as just an overall company, as a consulting firm, kind of going on to these early stage companies that aren't really wanting to give up, equity, or not wanting to take in brand new capital, but need kind of a help or a voice on their shoulder of giving them kind of advice and helping them for a few months. So that's continuing to grow. The biggest thing that I'm excited about is kind of my events. As my events continue to grow, I've told you about it. Rookie and the Vet,
it's cool.
Is the name, and that's growing the podcast side of Rookie and the Vet, the event space of Rookie and the Vet, and one day is the book, and that's kind of like I view myself.
Talk about the concept real quick.
Yeah,
Patrick.
That's what the Rookie and the Vet is basically. I, Patrick Schwarzenegger, view myself as a rookie, someone that is early in his process and wants to continue to learn from veterans, people that are established, that are successful in their field, and to kind of bring it up on the podcast side, it's for me to interview different veterans, someone like yourself in the the workout space, the bodybuilding, the consumer product packaged business, or someone like my dad or Wahlberg or The Rock, etc. And
I'll just stay with that group.
Just
keep on dropping that right there, Patrick.
But it's for me to investigate their principles, their mindset, what they had to sacrifice, what their goals were, how they got to where they are today, and in turn help kind of the younger generation, the next generation, or anybody that feels like a rookie in their kind of space, or that just wants to learn, which should be everybody, by the way. And that's kind of the concept with the podcast, with the events. I want to continue to bring in veterans in different industries to come in, give motivational speeches, talk about their life history, their story, what they wish they had known at our age or at our experience level in the industry. So in the end of the day, it's all to help other people. It's really to give back and find ways to use these stories and these extremely successful veterans to help the rookies.
So good. Now we hear tons about your dad, right? But I never asked you anything about your mom's side before.
Yeah.
Tell me a couple things that you learned. I'm sure it's a ton, but if you got things you could pick from Maria's side of the family, from the Kennedy lineage, just from that whole thing that we don't really hear much about because Dad with health and fitness is so dominant, right?
Yeah.
But speak on that for a sec.
Yeah, my mom, I mean, she's a force. She's amazing, and she sits right now on the Alzheimer's Association board, and she's so passionate about finding out why women are 2/3 of the people with Alzheimer's and have twice as likely of a chance to get Alzheimer's, and she's just dedicated her life to really doing that, everything from the diet side to memory games.
Is there somebody in your family that...
Yeah, so her father passed away from, my grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's, and I think that's why she just kind of like that made it her why, of why she really wanted to find this out. How can she help other people in the future? And, of course, she still does, all of her
stuff
news
on TV and everything,
all of that, which is in New
beast.
York still right now, and she's continuing to do that and loves that side of the business. But I think something that I've learned from my mom and a large thing of that's also from my dad, but my mom's kind of lineage in her family is always to give back. I think you've seen that from her great grandfather, Joseph P. Kennedy to his kids and being public servants and going out and one being president, a few of them being senators and congressmen, and then to kind of her parents of her mother, my grandmother Eunice Kennedy Shriver, starting the Special Olympics, giving people.
She started the Special.
Yeah, she started the Special Olympics in her backyard.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. crazy. I know it's a wild story.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, every summer we used to go over to Washington, D.C. to her house, and she would still continue to do the camps in her backyard, and we would get to volunteer there. So from that side to starting that, and that's why I was in Dubai this last year, was they actually hosted the Special Olympics Summer
One of the
Games.
guys from my gym was in the powerlifting.
Yeah.
And I saw you guys actually, he had a picture on it. He had saw you, and I wondered, I'm like, man, Patrick's going way out of his way. I mean, I know you give back, but I didn't realize the connection there.
I mean, the connection is from my grandmother, but it's, I mean, there's nothing better for me than that feeling of always
But to go to
giving
Dubai
back.
I mean, that's
it was, and they were so hospitable, and they were just like, they were, welcomed everybody with open arms, which was awesome. And then my grandfather started the Peace Corps. So they've always been about kind of giving back. How can you help other people? How can you help the less fortunate? How can you use the position that you're in and your kind of platform to go and help others? And I think that's a big thing that I've learned from my mom and from her side. And my dad obviously does that as well. But so many people are focused always on getting to that kind of next goal, that how do I make more money? How do I get that next, title job at my occupation or whatever that is. And those are always like, once you get there, you're kind of hit with okay, what's next?
Yeah, there's no finish line, really.
Yeah, there's no finish line. And my dad always talks about that in his 7 steps to success. Is the end is like, once you get there, it's all about raising your platform so that you can ultimately find ways to give back, and more people can listen to you and hear you, and you have the ability to reach more people to give back. And I find myself extremely fortunate that I find myself already in that position that I can give back, that not only in financial ways but in other ways, and being in person at these different things like a Special Olympics or a Best Buddies or my dad's after school all-star initiatives or anything like that. So give back, I would say.
It's super inspiring as a parent, Patrick, is to see how your parents, as on blast as they are, to be able to raise all of your brothers and sisters, man. Mm-hmm. They're all like doing so many positive things, and everybody has their drama from time to time, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, like, man, to be able to manage that.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be good, though, for you, too, because obviously you're in the limelight and you're probably going to be a parent one day, too. So, like, to be able to try to continue that process to not raise knuckleheads,
right?
Which happens. You've seen LA life, bro. I ain't going to tell
I've
you. Yeah. I'm sure you've had your days, but everyone does in their early 20s, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I was in school. I was a knucklehead. Of course. But it's,
But, ultimately, though, you knew from that upbringing, you knew really what time it was. You were just a young dude. That's different.
Yeah. 100%. That goes back to both my mom and my dad. They have such a weird, separate, couldn't be more opposite upbringings, right?
Yeah,
my dad being from Austria and then my mom being from kind of the Kennedy Shriver side, and I mean, it's just two worlds that couldn't be more opposite colliding, and it kind of it was such an interesting way of their parenting and how they brought us up. And I mean, so far
so good.
It's been good, but my parents were extremely strict, and especially with manners, and always with finding ways to give back, like I've said, and ultimately it's really, my dad always nailed in our head was like, kind of find your passion. And like you said in the beginning, he's not someone that gives out free throws, and he still isn't. And it's always like, in the end of the day, you got to work, and you got to work your ass off, and that's also one of his tips of to success, is like, no matter what your vision is, tons of people have dreams, but it's the ones that'll actually go out there and put in the work that'll get there. And I have so many dreams that I want to accomplish, and visions and everything like that, and I know that they're not just going to be handed to me, and I know that it's not right here in front of me just because who my dad is or not, that I got to go out there and put in the work, and I'm in the process.
I just want to let people know that it doesn't matter. Look, there might be some things here or there that you could access, but at the end of the day, you still have to make your own way. You still got to push, and especially guys like your dad who came from absolutely nothing.
Right.
He's not going to want to just hand you stuff.
No.
He wants you to, so you can have your own gratification.
Yep.
So people just assume, which we know how assumptions are.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's what I love about you kind of blazing your own path, getting on the mic more. I think it's huge the way that you're being vulnerable in some of these things too. Patrick, I think this is all good because it's your own lane, bro.
Right.
That's why I love it.
That's one of the the things that I would say I've struggled with the most in the past years, and it's something that I've kind of not in this last slump, but in just other parts of my life in the last year or two, and through my mentor has extremely helped me. But I feel like a lot of the motivation that I have is because people always ask, like, don't you feel daunted by your dad's shadow or your mom's shadow? Aren't you trying to make a name for yourself and everything? And I am. And
Why
I think
aren't you a bodybuilder?
Yeah,
It's
right?
like, come on, man.
And I think that so much of my motivation has been to kind of prove to other people that I have my own path, which has been great, and it's made it so that I do get up at that 5 a.m.
Gives
that
you a
I
chip
do.
on your shoulder.
Yeah, it does,
in
and
a good way.
it makes me grind. However, I've realized that it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get to the point in my life that I'm going to convince, Joe Schmo over here or Joe Smith over here that I had that I've created my own path without anybody's help. And I'm very open with this. Like I said, that I've had an extreme amount of help.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten my first loan to go into my Blaze Pizza company that made millions if it weren't for my dad and my mom to support that business idea or
But
anything.
don't you think there's levels to that? Like there's the same level of help coming to somebody that might not have as much money for their opportunity. It's all relative.
It is, but I mean it more on a personal level of Patrick Schwarzenegger, myself. I'll never be internally satisfied if I'm always just chasing to make sure that other people view me as that. Yep. And that's what I kind of started to recognize last year and with my mentor, because he was like, what's the why? Why are you getting up that early? Why are you grinding so hard? Like, you don't need to. You have money. You've had success. And I'm like, man, I want to go prove to people. He's like, let me tell you something. That's never going to happen. You're going to always be chasing that feeling for the rest of your life. And you got to sit back and really create a why as to why you want to do the things that you want to do. And then all your success is possible. Then you'll live, kind of internally successful. And it's never about, making that $1 million or that $1 billion or whatever, because he's like, I've done it. And I'll tell you what happens when that money hits your account. Nothing. You're happy, you're hit with an amount of dopamine, but then you're searching for that next business, that next venture. And he's like, I had that same problem, man, and I'm telling you right now, you got to find your other why.
Wow.
He's like, and that's a beautiful thing to get you motivated and get going, but you got to dig deep and find out, what is it? Are you trying to impress your dad?
That's
are you trying to impress your mom?
Dude, that's real.
It's wild, and it's been something that I've been focusing a lot on in the last year and a half or so, and it's it's totally changed my life, and it's allowed me to utilize fear in a different way.
Yeah.
Because so much of the fear is going back to other people, is like, fear of what other people think of you, letting people, putting a real value on other people's, thoughts of you. Yeah. And you start to become this person that you don't want to be, and not what someone else wants you to be, but what you think other people.
Yeah. It's a bad lane
to
be in.
So
too.
I'm happy I recognize that, and I'm so fortunate that I have people that can articulate that to me. I mean, it's really deep, man, to go into, but it's the
hard work thing. Obviously, back to your pops for a second. He's displayed it probably as long as you can remember. Has there been anything like along the way that you've like went with him on or done something with him that was like, all right, that, and I'm sure it's many things, but maybe the first time we were like, man, we just did that for 15 hours. Mm-hmm. My dad was like, there's a level of work that it takes to become somebody like Arnold or any type of obsessive, person. So is there something that early on you saw him just do that was like, that's kind of what it takes? Okay.
I think that I kind of wish that he ran for governor when I was older.
And
I could really kind of appreciate that side of it. Because when I was, 10 years old or 11 years old, it was like, oh, governor, I have to go to the Capitol now instead of Warner Brothers Studios and ride the rides. But I think the work ethic that went into that of just nonstop every single day, and he was flying to different cities each and every day, and then he would fly back home to have dinner with us or to try to pick us up from school. And I was just like, looking back on that time, I think of like, oh, wow, that's
serious.
That was serious. Yeah, that was, nonstop. But it's weird because it's kind of like going back to the idea of the rituals and the habits of kind of his everyday is like he just doesn't stop.
Dude, his schedule is unbelievable.
It's nuts. And it's like, even when we were supposed to come here and I was supposed to do this dinner with you on Thursday night, and then I text you, hey, man, we can't. My dad now needs to go to Canada quickly for an hour to do this.
Just pile it on with the Arnold on top of it.
Speech at this entrepreneurs conference. But he just never stops. And his thing is like going back to everything is what's his why? And his why is, as he continues to gain more platform, as he does more movies, as he impacts more people at these entrepreneur conferences, everything, then he can find ways to give back, help more people. And even here at the Arnold Classic, it's like he's not worried about this little hiccup because it's still going to go towards how do we impact people? How do we bring health and fitness to more and more people? Forget the financial impact. Let's just push forward. We know what we're here to do and what our why is and what our motto is as the Arnold Classic. Forget about the financial hit. Let's go. We got to keep going. And it's a mindset that is one of a kind, and I'm extremely happy and honored to be able to learn from it. But it's like, growing up, just kind of what he's told me, there's no other option, right? It's either you get stuck on the farm milking the cow, or you go in and live out your dream. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of these kind of listeners out there, is going back to the idea of fear. And something that my dad does is, how do you flip fear the other way? Instead of being like, I wonder what other people are going to think if I fail at trying to become a movie star, or I fail if I do these businesses. Switch the fear and say, what happens if I didn't try this? What will I feel?
Scared of that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Straight up.
When you flip that and you're more worried about the feeling of not giving it the try, or not trying that business, or not trying to do that film, or not trying to do whatever it is, then you utilized fear.
I just don't want to be on my deathbed thinking, man, I should have tried that.
Yeah.
I should have tried this. Like, I want to know I went all out.
Exactly.
And what came of it is what it is.
Exactly.
And that failure isn't really a thing. It's a lesson.
Yeah,
and you keep moving. Like, that was the one thing, like, when I had breakfast with your dad shortly after the MP stuff, he's like, it's all about how you stand up now.
Yeah.
That you learned a lot.
Did he tell you his famous quote?
Which one?
He goes, when he says, like, why are you worried about failure? You know how far down you're going to fall if you fail?
How far?
He looks down to the ground. He goes, maybe a foot or two right there.
I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah, and he goes, what? That's the farthest you're going to fall, is right down to the floor.
Just take it and keep moving.
And then you just got to get back up. And he always says it as a joke, but it's true. I mean, it's like,
true. People are so scared of that fall, though.
Yeah.
But it's only right there.
Yeah.
Man, that's true. I'll tell you what, one thing that was so cool, you were out of town. I was in for Christmas, right? And I was training with your dad.
Yeah. No, I was in town. I was remember I was I was filming night shoots
that's right.
on the
you
Netflix
couldn't make
film.
it to the party.
Yeah, I was pissed. I wanted to, yeah.
So I went out and I was training with your dad, and he introduced me to somebody from Budapest that was in town.
Adam?
Actually, he was on the security detail last night.
Yeah, Adam, yeah.
Adam, yeah. So he goes, this is Cory. This is someone, he said this, and this made my day. He goes, this is somebody I trust and knows how to work hard. Yeah. And I was like, oh, shit, Arnold just said that? Like, to me, that's what I was always trying to show him.
Right.
That I'm not going to maybe get it perfect all the time, but I'm going to put the work in. And I think over time, because I've just been obsessive about that, I've gotten better and better and better, and I'm still learning, but it's like people know what they're going to get.
Right.
And I think that was the one thing that I knew my academics wasn't there. I knew that, I didn't come from any type of background of business, but I was just a relentless character that loves what I do. And I think that over time, it taught me that maybe I could get an endorsement like that in the gym, like Arnold's introducing me like this. I was like, man, I couldn't have made that up if I tried, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I really believe that what I lacked in these other areas, I was able to bring up with that.
Right.
Because you knew what you were going to get. You've given me some nice compliments like that over the years, and that means the world to me, because I know if we ever work together on another project again or do something, that you know what you're going to get from my side.
Right.
And that right there, like, telling the listeners that people that actually get it, that means a lot.
Right.
Because that, if they're going to put their money in you, they're going to put their Rolodex in you, they're going to put your time. If Patrick Schwarzenegger is going to invest in your company, you better have some work to you.
Right.
That's
100%.
why you respected those guys texting you at 4 a.m. Right.
100%.
They're about their business.
They're about the grind.
Yeah. So good.
It's so true. And I think that's a big lesson. And I'm sure you hit home with this every single time to your listeners, but I mean, how old are you now?
I'll be 42 this year.
42. I mean, so you have so much more time still, but you probably would have never done the Max Effort or your Cory G app or any of those businesses if the last one didn't work out to how it did.
No question.
And I think that, going back to the idea of this failing, people are so afraid to fail, especially a lot of your listeners who are in their early 20s that are at school, that have just finished school, that are wondering if they should drop out of school, or are in the mid 20s and they're saying, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. I just got this degree and I'm not, go out there and swing for the fences. If you guys don't if it doesn't work out, if it fails, once again, it's not a failure, it's a mistake. How do you learn from that? And then so that your next business, you bounce back smarter, stronger. And I mean, look what you were telling me, some of the numbers you're doing right now in your other businesses. And it's amazing that you could bounce back. And that just shows you took exactly what you learned from the last one, what worked, what didn't work, and how do I apply it to my next thing so that it's that much better.
Block.
Yeah.
It's a building block. It's wild. Anything else you want to share with the listeners, Patrick? That's just, we talked about on the Daily Fire, but for everybody that didn't listen to it, you talked about a slump earlier. You had shoulder surgery. You've been battling through that. Kind of lead us through that process a little bit for guys that didn't hear the other episode.
Yeah, of course. I think we just talked about going through a little bit of a slump, a mental slump and a physical slump, and it's something that I've been dealing with for the last, call it 6-8 weeks or something like that, of having that shoulder surgery has just totally taken me out of my daily rituals. It's totally affected the time I wake up, from not being able to work out, to what I'm eating, to my work ethic, to not working nearly as much, not being as diligent, not as determined. And it's allowed my subconscious, everything, to focus on the things that I couldn't do rather than the things that I could do. And I shared that with a lot of my followers, and so many of them were DMing me and messaging me of how much they related to that. And, what I urge a lot of people is that if you're going through that, it's one thing to acknowledge that you're going through that slump, but it's another thing to take action and find ways to get out of it, or to supplement that time, or to find something else that you can focus on when you can't do, in my case, my physical exercise, my working out, or anything like that. And, everybody goes through slumps. And I think that we talked a little bit about social media, Instagram, which is this highlight reel, and everyone's showing their ups and their campaigns and their movies like I do. Constantly. But at the same time, behind the scenes, a lot of people are going through a lot of, problems.
Adversity. Yeah,
adversity. And the other thing Instagram doesn't do is, you show your 8-pack on there and you show how much you're lifting, and it doesn't show the other 4 hours you're up in the morning doing everything to get to that,
when I post actually lifts I miss, I get more comments than the ones I make.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, finally you didn't make one.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't he put the one I make on? But we got to get better at that, I think, because especially if you have a platform, you got to let people know that you are human.
Yeah. And so for all the listeners out there that you're struggling with, deciding what business you do want to go towards, or you're not happy in your current conditions, or you have an idea that you're wondering if you should go out and swing for the fences for, or you're just having struggles, with, family stuff, or financial stuff, or health stuff, or anything like that, like I told Cory, enjoy the time off the field, recognize what it is that you need to change, and get back on the field so that you can, come back stronger and better than ever.
It's awesome. Where can everybody find you at, Patrick?
Instagram.
Yeah,
Patrick Schwarzenegger.
You got it. And then talk about what was it? Achilles. What's the
my Achilles Advisors.
Yeah. What's so crazy is we have sometimes the people that message us is sneaky that listen to this podcast. I've had some interesting ones from time to time, so you never know who might hit you up for consulting. So
you never know.
Yeah, it's like that.
That's actually, I brought that up on the last podcast I did. It's like, it's shocking how amazing DMs are.
Oh man.
I mean, it's a direct line to the person.
Yeah, when I grew up, man, you couldn't do that.
It's insane. And the amount of people that take advantage of it,
bro,
not much.
Not very many.
Not very many
you
at
got
all.
One of your best business opportunities by you DMing.
By
somebody.
DMing. And I've had people that have worked with me from DMs.
From DMing you.
I had the last girl that worked for my company. Mm-hmm. Her name was Lauren. She had messaged me saying that she was, fresh out of college, and she had about 6 months until her grad school. And she was like, it's not worth it for me to go out and get locked into a job. I want to just come and I want to go to every single meeting with you. And I will take notes for you. I will do everything. I will go through all your decks before and come up with a synopsis, everything of before we go to the meetings. And she's like, I don't want anything else from you. I just want to be able to learn and sit in on these meetings. And I said, you know what?
Sign me up, right?
Yeah, just because you messaged me that and you really do want to learn. I said, of course, come with me. I'll introduce you to every single CEO that I meet and everything like that. She went and did a law thing. This year she has from the summer off. And just from that, I gave her a letter of recommendation and she got a job.
That's
and
cool.
I was like, that just was amazing that this person, this young girl had the balls to go out and message me that, not saying, hey, I'll work for you for free, tell me what to do. She listed out, this is what I will do.
What I'm going to do.
And I was like, you know what? That I love when young kind of people just come out and hustle and will
And
show
push.
what they can, what's their X factor or anything like that. In exchange, of course, I'll help you in any single way.
That's good. All right, we'll wrap it up now. You listen to Business and Biceps. Make sure you give us a 5-star review, and a positive comment, even though John Fosco is not here. Without further ado, Johnny Fosco, you're not here. Can the podcast be stopped? The podcast can't be stopped.